So this is the story of the appearance of Lord Jagannath. It was billed as The Secrets of Jagannath, and I don't know how that title got kept out, but it wasn't the title that I gave. The one I gave is the one I just mentioned. Nonetheless, for those of you who don't know how Lord Jagannath appeared in this world, it will appear to be a secret reveal. And I must say that it's very fascinating and very touching at the same time. So let me start from the beginning. There's a lot of material to cover. First of all, it starts in an area called Avantipur. Avantipur is high up in the north of India, near Kashmir. Okay? So, in that area lived a king named Indradyumna. So, King Indradyumna was a devotee of Lord Vishnu, and a very staunch and very sincere, very serious devotee. And anytime he heard anything about Lord Vishnu, he wanted to hear more about it. And it just happened to be that at one time, a visitor came to his court. And the visitor came and began to tell him about an incarnation or manifestation of Lord Vishnu in the form of Nila Madhava. So the more the king heard about this incarnation, his beauty, his way his eyes were, his lips, his smile, everything about him caused the king to become very, very much eager to learn more about him. But before he could even find out exactly where this particular person had seen Nila Madhava, the person had left. And so he didn't exactly know where to find Nila Madhava. So he gathered a group of Brahmins and sent them all over India to try. So he wanted to find out where this Nila Madhava is. So the Brahmins, they scoured the entire India, and they all returned back unsuccessfully, except one. So one of them was actually successful. He entered into the area called Nilachal, which is where our present Jagannath Puri is. He wandered into that area, and he knocked on a door, and it happened to be that that area was of a non-Aryan nature or type. Non-Aryan means they were actually pig farmers, and they were known as shovers. Shovers, pig farmers, rather considered lower class. Nonetheless, he knocked on the door, and the door opened, and a very beautiful young woman answered. And he said, "Is your father around?" And she said, "He should be arriving very shortly." So, she welcomed him in, he came in, and then a few minutes later, her father came, and he began to speak to this particular Brahmin, whose name was Vidyapati. I'll repeat it. Vidyapati is the name of the Brahmin. So he asked him, what is his mission here? He said, well, he's on a mission for the king, and he's looking for a particular deity. Anyway, he advised his daughter to act or treat this Brahmin with great hospitality. After a certain amount of time, a short amount of time passed, he asked the Brahmin if he would please marry his daughter. The Brahmin consented to marry her. So he moved into the house there, and after some time he noticed something very, very peculiar. The name of her father was Vishvasu. Okay? Vishvasu would leave every night, and he would come back the next day about 12 noon. And he would smell, he would have this fragrance of musk, sandalwood, and a few other fragrances. And he was wondering, what was he doing all night? And then to come home and to have this incredible, overwhelming fragrance was absolutely amazing. So he asked his wife, her name was Lalita. So he asked Lalita, where does he go? what does he do? She said, well, I'm not supposed to tell. So she said, well, but husband and wife can't have secrets if you want to have a harmonious relationship, right? She said, yes, but still, my father vowed me to silence. This is so peculiar and so unusual. You surely would share this knowledge with me. Anyway, he pestered her for a while, and finally he was able to kind of squeeze the information out of her. And she said, my father, maybe the door closed here, or somebody can go in and try to keep it open. It's a bit diverting to me anyway. So, anyway, he said to her, so what did your father tell you? What is such a secret? She said, well, my father goes to worship a particular deity, and he worships him all night, and he comes back around 12 noon. What is the name of that deity? The deity is Nila Madhava. Nila Madhava? Everybody was looking for Nila Madhava, and finally, you know where Nila Madhava is? He says, I personally don't know, but my father knows where he is. He said, well, Father came in and said, I'd like to know where this Nila Madhava is. Oh, well, I can't let anybody see Nila Madhava. He's my deity. What do you mean your deity? He says, yes, only I worship him, and only I get to see him, and only I get benedictions from him. I said, well, you know, I've heard what it's like to see this deity. I've heard about him. I'm sorry, no soap, as they say. We can't see the deity. Anyway, he beat his wife. He said, you've got to make some kind of arrangement with your father to let me see that deity. I'm here. I've been sent from a Bandipur over 1,000 miles just to find that deity. Finally, I found him, and you've got to do something to persuade your father to let me see him. Went to her father and said, please, my husband is badgering me and pestering me and bothering me. He wants to see the deity. He said, no, I can't. Please. But you know how fathers do love their daughters, and after a while, they pester long enough, they may get what they want. And in this case, he said, all right, I'll make a deal. The deal is that I will take him to the altar of Nila Madhava, but not with his eyes open. You will have a blindfold over him so he does not see where the root is, how we got there. So, little did he know that his daughter was quite shrewd, and what she would do before they started on the trek is in the pocket of her husband, she put some mustard seeds. Okay? So the mustard seeds were in his pocket. He was blindfolded and then led along the forest path. And as he walked along the forest path, he sowed the seeds, threw them out, knowing full well that in due course of time, the seeds, so they would get flipped into the ground, animals walking on them, different things, rain coming. So as a result, what would happen is that the mustard seeds would begin to bear fruit, and they would come up as plants, mustard plants. And we all know that mustard plants are yellow and very easy to detect. So if you're walking along and you see a trail of mustard seeds, and if you follow the trail, then it will lead you to the place where Nila Madhava was being worshipped. So that's what happened. The Sharma, whose name was Vishvasu, he led Vidyapati to that place, and finally he took off the blindfold. The Brahman looked at the deity and said, I've never seen anything so beautiful, so amazing, so awesome. And he immediately started jumping up and down and he couldn't resist, he couldn't restrain himself. So Vishvasu said, well, I'm going to get some offerings now, some leaves, and flowers, and fruits, and I will bring them back. In the meanwhile, you stay here, and we can continue your worship. So that's exactly what happened. A short time later, after we had gathered all of these things, and he put them on the altar, and began his worship. He started doing his mantras. No sooner did he begin this than a voice from the sky spoke. He said, "My dear Vishvasu, my dear devotee, for so long I have accepted simple worship from you. Forest flowers, leaves. But now I desire a different kind of worship. A worship from a royal type of worship. From King Indradyumna." Heard that? Indradyumna would come down, he would take the deity, bring it back up to the one, board, he wouldn't have this private, wonderful, close worship anymore. So what he decided to do is not allow his son-in-law, Vidyapati, to go back up to Avantipur. So what did he do? Inside the house, he tied him up. And he tied him to a solid structure. Like a post like you're sitting next to it. Yeah, something like that. He tied him up, and he couldn't move. Couldn't go this way, couldn't go that way. There was no way that he could go. So, his wife, seeing her husband all tied up, did not particularly like that. So she began to pester her father, "My dear father, I can't stand to look at my husband all tied up like a prisoner, like an animal." He said, "You have to unbind him and let him go and complete the job that he started in from Avantipur." He said, No, then the king will come and will take me and mother away. No, please, it breaks my heart. Well, again, she used her daughterly affection and was able to, in some way, appeal to him. And he said, "Oh." And he prayed and hoped that Nilamadeva would not disappear. Anyway, Vidyapati went up to Avantipur and he told King Indradyumna that he found Nilamadeva. Oh, he was happy, he was joyful. He said, got a company of soldiers, and they trekked down to the area of Nilachala. This community were of Shabras. And when they reached the area, Vidyapati noticed the mustard plants that he had planted, so that he would know how to reach Nilamadeva. So they followed the trail of the plants, and finally they came to the altar where Nilamadeva was supposed to be. And when they reached it, there was no Nilamadeva. Gone, disappeared. Where is he? First suspect would be who? Yes, Vishvasu was the first suspect. So the soldiers, King Indradyumna besieged the whole area, and he arrested Vishvasu. He says, "Where is Nilamadeva? We have come all this way, and now you've hidden him someplace. Where have you hidden him?" "I didn't hide him any place." "Don't lie." "No, I haven't. I didn't. I came there one day and he was gone. He disappeared." "I don't believe you." And then suddenly a voice from the sky again came down and said, "Release this Shabra. You will no longer see me as Nilamadeva. I will now appear as woody Brahma, called Dao Brahma. And the way that will happen is up on Nila Hill. You will go up there and you will build a big, beautiful temple. And at the right time, I will appear in that temple. And then you will see me, but not in the form of Nilamadeva as Vidyapati had seen me, but in a different form, called a wooden form. So the king accepted the instruction. He went up to the hill and he established a town there. And that town that he constructed, in that town, he built this beautiful structure. He built it 100 feet down below the earth and 200 feet above the earth. So it's a pretty high temple. And then it was made very beautiful. It was, the outside was ornamented with gold. And on top of the building, he placed what was known as a pinnacle, round pinnacle, and on top of the pinnacle, he placed a chakra, or a replica of the Sudarshan chakra. So it was now very, very beautiful, and he felt that it was certainly beautiful enough for the Lord to want to take residence in that place. But he wanted Lord Brahma to install the deity. Generally, deities are installed by very spiritual persons, often priests who do nothing except priestly types of activities. So he prayed to Lord Brahma to come, and Lord Brahma appeared there. And after he appeared there, the Brahman asked, "Would you please install the deity when he appears? When he appears here, and do all the mantras and all the prayers that are necessary for an installation." The Lord Brahma said, "I can't do that." Said, "Why can't you do it?" He says, "Because Gaura Brahman is a self-manifested deity. He manifests himself, he installs himself, so I have nothing to do that. It's out of my jurisdiction. I can't do anything about that, so don't worry. This whole area is holy as a result of his wish." He said, "But what I can do, what I will do, is I will put a flag up on the top of the building, and anyone who sees this flag from a distance and offers obeisances to that flag will easily be liberated." As you can see, when you go across, we have a replica of our building here. You see there's that big flag which is above the chakra and it's glowing in the wind. So that's basically the idea there. And so the king was satisfied with this, and he felt for sure that in a certain amount of time the deity would appear. Anyway, he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and he waited, and the deity did not appear. Where is he? Why isn't he coming? What is the purpose of this delay? What's behind it? So we began to think, I must have committed some offense. I must have done something wrong. I must have said something wrong. I must have done something that has caused the deity to refrain from coming and appearing here. What did I do? I can't remember, but in any event, my life is worthless, it's useless if the deity doesn't come, and he hasn't come after some time, so I'm going to take my life. So what he did is he gathered a patch of pusha grass, he put pusha grass down on the ground, and he lay down, ready to fast to death. So that night, in a dream, the Lord appeared to him, and the Lord said, "Do not despair, do not be disturbed. You will see me very soon. I will come flowing in from the sea, and when I do, I will then land on this shore, or on the sand, at the place called Banki Wuhan. And if you just go there tomorrow morning, you will see me there." He was really very rejoicing. So the next morning, with a company of soldiers, they went down to the beach, And sure enough, there was this big block of wood. And they approached it, got close to it, and on the block of wood there were the symbols of Vishnu. There was the chakra, there was the club, there was the lotus, and what's the last one? The conch. Yeah, the conch shell. Yeah. So all four were on there. So this is the symbol of Lord Vishnu. He's announcing his presence. So the king, of course, he was very, very happy, very glad to see this. And the first thing he wanted to do was to try to lift it and take it to the proper and appointed place. So he bent down and he tried to lift. He couldn't even budge it. He tried again. Wouldn't move. Tried again. Still no move. He called the soldiers. Come on, let's all get it. Everybody pulled, pushed. Could not budge it even one fraction of an inch. Why was he just moving? They got the elephants. The elephants, they tied on ropes around them, and they tied the rope around the wood, and the elephants were pulling, trumpeting, and all that, and no movement. What's going on? Here, the deity has appeared, and now he's not moving. What are we supposed to do? Worship him on the sand? So, anyway, that night he went to sleep. And he got a message from Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath said, if you want to move me, then this is what you should do. You should get my servant, Vishvasi, and put him on one side of the holy block of wood. Then you should get Vidyapati, my Brahmin servant, and put him on the other side of the block. And then you should get a golden chariot and put that chariot directly in front of me. And you should have a rip-roaring, rousing kirtan. And you can get it moving. So, King Yeager wondered, is it true? Will you really be able to move him? Anyway, so he got Vishvasi, put him on one side, he got Vidyapati, put him on the other side, got the chariot, and the chariot was there. And then the kirtan started. They got all the people from the town, and they were chanting and dancing, clapping, and everyone was rejoicing. And then as the kirtan began to end, the king placed his arms around the block of wood, and he prayed, my dear Lord, please mount the chariot. Please mount the chariot, please. And sure enough, when the kirtan ended, the king bent down and lifted, and it lifted. He lifted it higher, and it lifted higher. So he got everybody around, and they all lifted the deity, and they placed the deity in the chariot. They moved the chariot to a designated place near the temple. So that's what happened up to this point. Well, now they have this beautiful big block of wood. The next thing that had to be done is there had to be some artists or sculptors who could carve it. This is a very special piece of wood. They wanted to make certain that that this was carved properly and beautifully. So the different sculptors, they came, they took their mallet, and their chisel, and they began to try, banged on the chisel, banged on the mallet, banged on the chisel, but as they did that, the chisel broke in half, and then in pieces, and the chisels just fell to the ground. So one artist, second one, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, eighth, ninth, 10th, all the chisels broke. How do you carve the deity? You don't have somebody to carve it. We don't have the instruments to do that. Lo and behold, as the king was just trying to figure out an answer to this frustrating problem, an old sculptor wandered in and came in and said to the king, I will carve your deity if you will allow me 21 days in solitude. Then it shall be carved to your satisfaction. But no one should enter the room while I am working. you do, then the deity will be incomplete. You understand? Oh, of course I understand. All right. Now, these are the artists that you had before. Take them into another area and they will construct 3 chariots. What are they for? You will see. You don't have to ask questions now. Everything will be answered in due course. So, his name was Amala Bhakta. He was actually Vishvakarma. You know Vishvakarma? He was the architect of the demigods. But he was in disguise. He didn't want to be known. So, for a reason I don't exactly know, but that's the way he wanted to be. So the doors were locked, and the sculptor began working. And every day the king would come down and he would listen by the door. And he would hear the hitting sound of the mallet against the chisel. Ah, yes, it's getting closer. The day is getting closer. And finally, the 14th day came, and he didn't hear anything. What's happening? There's no sound. He waited for morning, afternoon, evening, still no sound. I wondered, what has happened to the Maharana? Is he sick? Is he unconscious? Is he dead? What's wrong? Why can't we hear the chiseling going on? So he asked his minister, what do you think? He said, just be patient. Wait. He asked his wife, what do you think? No, I think there may be something wrong with him, and we should go inside and try to find out. Maybe he needs our help. So the king was betwixt and between. He didn't know exactly which way to go. So finally he decided that he would go inside. If the artist needed some help, then certainly he should find that out. If he didn't, then he would just go back out, and hopefully the sculpture would go on. Anyway, he went inside, looked around. There's no Ananda Maharana. Sculptor, Ananda Maharana, where are you? No answer. No reply, no response. But deity forms had been carved. Well, it was once one god, and now we had three forms. And one was in the form of a female, and the other was in the form of 2 males. And then he looked at them, looking from the top of the head, coming down, down, down. And he looked at the hands. Well, there were no hands. You know, Jagannath has no hands. So there were no hands there. And he went down further and he had no feet. No feet. Deity without hands and feet. The only reason this has happened is because I entered this temple where the carving was going on 7 days too soon. Oh, what have I done? I stopped the progress of the deity, and he felt terrible that what he had done was terribly wrong, and he felt he really didn't have a right to live, since whoever heard of a deity without hands and without feet? Inconceivable. So he went back up to his bedroom and got all the kusha grass, and there he went in front of it. Again, fast to death. That was his plan. Because he felt so guilty, so remorseful, that he didn't even have a right to live. So, therefore, he decided that he would just lay there and fast to the end. Well, he went to sleep that night, and again, the Lord appeared to him in a dream. And he said to him, my dear king, you need not be in anxiety. You need not feel any stress, because this is all part of the sweetness of my pastime. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, the reason deity has no hands or no feet is because In the scripture, it is mentioned very clearly, the Shvedasvatara Panishad, that Lord Jagannath and Baladev and Lady Subhadra, they have no hands nor feet. So in order to conform to the scripture, I had to, from within yourself, from your heart, I had to urge you to enter the temple 7 days too soon. If it's just my play, just my fraud. So please forgive. But we could not have a Lord Jagannath with hands and feet, because the scripture states very clearly that he has no hands and feet. The next thing that the Lord said to him, that if you want to occasionally worship me in opulence, then you can do that. And the way you will do that is that you will decorate me with gold or silver hands and feet. But this is done on a rare occasion, and probably you will see our Jagannath deity will have golden hands at the festival. Usually we do that on special occasions, but normally it is not done. So that was the first thing that the Lord had asked the king, that if he wanted to do this, he could do this on an occasion. The Lord further said that every year there should be a festival in which he, his brother Baladev, and sister Subhadra should ride on one of the 3 chariots that had been constructed by all the other artists. The king agreed to do this, and then the Lord further said that the descendants of the Kshatriya, Vishvasu, his descendants should be the Dayatas. A Dayata is a person who transports the deity from inside the temple to outside the temple onto the chariots. So he said that the descendants of Vishvasu should be the Dayatas. They should be the ones who transfer me, my brother and sister, onto the waiting chariots outside. He further said that the descendants of the Japanese Brahmin wife, they should be those persons who worship the deity, and they would be called the Pujaris. And furthermore, he said that the descendants of the Japanese Kshatriya wife, that's the Lalita, that was her name, that they should cook the food, and they would be called Suryadas. So therefore, the Lord set up a definite way in which this is to be done on a regular basis. Then further, 1 or 2 other things were arranged. Yes, the king then asked the Lord if he may keep the temple open all day except for 3 hours. And the reason for that is that he wanted the deity, he wanted the Lord to be accessible to as many persons as possible throughout the day. So whoever would come in the night, would come in the daytime, the temple would be open and would be easily accessible, and people could worship the deity. That was the first thing. The second thing, he said to the Lord, I would like it that you should always be eating, you should always have your fingers wet from feasting all day and most of the night. Would that be okay? And he said, well, of course. You want to feast me, I'll be happy. And what happens is 56 different preparations were prepared. So that would keep the Lord busy for quite a long time, eating and eating and eating. Of course, the Lord has an infinite appetite, so he can eat as much as he wants and doesn't put on 1 pound. Doesn't gain any weight or anything like that. So the Lord agreed to that. And then the next thing that requested, is that the king asked, I do not want to have any descendants. And the reason for this is that if I have descendants, they may lay claim to the temple as their own, when it is actually your temple. And they may then begin to change the procedures that have been or are being established. Because when a person owns something, he can do whatever he wants with it because it's his. So the Lord agreed, yes, we'll have no descendants at all. So those three things were agreed to. The next thing is that the king asked a very pointed, a very important question, which I'm sure most of you now have that question. And the question was, but why? Why do you have to appear without hands or feet? Well, what is the necessity for it? No other deities appear without hands and feet. Why do you have to appear that way? But the Lord said, you will know the answer to that very soon. At that point, the Lord disappeared, and the king woke up. And when he woke up, shortly after, who should appear before him but Narada Muni? Narada Muni, I know that you want to have the answer to why the Lord appears without hands and feet. Most people don't know that. So Narada Muni said, I was a witness to the pastime of how that occurred. The king said, please tell me the story. He said, long ago, I went to Dwarka, and I entered one of the palaces, and then I entered one of the chambers there, and I noticed that guarding the door in that chamber was Lady Subhadra. And I asked her, can I go into the next room? She said, no, you can't go in. Why can't I go in? She said, well, there were some ladies in there, and they're talking about the pastimes of Krishna when he was in Vrindavan. And it's very intimate, very private. They don't want to be interrupted. And he said, all right, I'll just stand by and wait till the conversation finishes, and then I'll go in. She said, yes, that would be okay. Then who should happen along in a few moments was Krishna himself. Now, the reason that the ladies had posted Subhadra at the door was so that if Krishna came and he entered and he would hear these pastimes of Vrindavan, he would become overwhelmed with ecstasy, so much ecstasy that he might become agitated or disturbed or lose his normal consciousness, and they wanted to prevent that. Because remember now, he's not in his Vrindavan Leela now, he's in his Dwarka Leela, which is much more formal, much more staged, much more composed. So Subhadra's business is to tell her brother, and as he came in, she's like, sorry, but I can't allow you to enter. Why not? Well, because ladies are discussing your pastimes and they don't want to be interrupted. Well, if they're discussing, then I'll just stand here and I'll eavesdrop. She said, as you wish. So he's standing there and he's listening to this conversation that's going on. The more he's listening to it, he's starting to shake. He's listening to those incredible pastimes, the gopis and the Rasa Leela dance, when they were walking in the forest, when they entered into water and they were splashing one another. So as he's remembering all these things, his ecstasy is growing. It's getting more intense, and he's starting to shake, he's starting to shiver, he's perspiring, and slowly but surely his hands begin to disappear. Now what is that reminiscent of? Lord Chaitanya, when he was in ecstasy of Krishna and the gopis and the Rasa Leela dance, his arms completely went inside. And you couldn't see, he was like a turtle. He just saw the shell of his body. Same with the legs. Of course, after some time, the arms came out and everything became normalized. So the same thing happened with Krishna in had no hands, he had no feet. And he just stood there stunned, awed, amazed by remembering or reminiscing that incredible pastime with the gopis. Remember, he's not had that kind of interaction in Dwarka. Dwarka, as I said, more sophisticated, more formal, more cultured. They don't express themselves in the spontaneous, overflowing way that persons who live in a village or in a forest situation might do, because there's no necessity for such restraint and such formality. In palaces, everybody is formal, they speak in a certain way, they bow their heads, they walk in a certain way. Everything is very cultured, very studied. Anyway, Balaram came along, and he saw his brother just standing there. You know, the big Jagannath eyes that you see on there, and he's just standing there. He said, what's going on, Balaram? Krishna, what's happening? He stood there, and Subhadra said, well, he was listening, or eavesdropping on some of the pastimes that the ladies inside were talking about. Nobody can go in.
Who was describing the stories of pastime? Who was describing the pastime?
Narada Muni. Yeah, Narada Muni is, he's telling this to King Indrajumna.
No, who was describing the stories to all the ladies?
No, the ladies were just discussing amongst themselves.
Rohini, maybe Rohini.
What gopis were?
No, this is Dwarka ladies. These are ladies from Dwarka. Yeah, no, they're talking about what they had heard, and they wanted to have this discussion amongst themselves. No, these are not the gopis. These are Dwarka ladies. And so, Balaram, he wanted to go in and he wanted to hear, but Subhadra said, no, you can't come in. So he said, well, brother, he's standing here, I'll stand here also. So he began to eavesdrop and overhear the conversation, and slowly but surely, he also began to enter into this ecstasy that Krishna was in. Now his mouth was open, his eyes open wide, he's just standing there, and slowly but surely his hands disappeared. He had no hands, he had no feet. Subhadra saw this amazing. She began to listen more intently now to what was going on inside, because she was just guarding and maybe having her own personal thoughts. But now she began listening, and surely, lo and behold, her hands disappeared and her feet disappeared. And Narada Muni was watching all this taking place. And now he's telling this story to King Indrajumna, who wanted to know how and why Lord Jagannath has no hands or feet. So therefore, when finally the ladies finished their conversation, they opened the door, and Krishna slowly came back to his normal state, in which he had feet, in which he had hands. Narada Muni approached him and he said, my dear Lord Krishna, I beg the following mercy from you. Would you please allow the whole world to know of this particular incident in which you became so ecstatic on listening to your Vrindavan pastimes to the extent that you have lost your hands. This is a very striking feature, a very awesome and amazing situation that I would very much appreciate if you would reveal it to the entire world. Would you do that? He said, yes, I shall do that. So now you all know the story as to why Krishna has no hands, no feet in the Jagannath form. Okay? So the next question comes is, well, I didn't finish yet. So there's still a little bit more which takes place. So let me finish that. So after that was explained, Lord Brahma, he disappeared, and then Goddess Saraswati, she appeared on the scene. And she told King Indrajumna the way that the deities had to be painted. Jagannath has to be painted black, Balaram has to be painted white, and Subrata should be painted yellow. And the king brought in the artists, and they were painted just the way we see them in our temple. So now the next thing, now the deities were all ready and waiting. They were placed in the temple. And next, who should come? But Lord Brahma, he appears with hundreds of demigods. Some of the topmost demigods are Surya, Chandra, and Vayu, and so forth. And all other sub-demigods and sub-sub-demigods, they all come down because they're going to have the first Rathayatra festival. And so what happens is that Lord Brahma is there, and he sends a message to Vishvasu and all of his associates, and they then begin to do their dieting work, which is to transport the deities from the temple to the cart, and each deity placed on his or her respective cart. So the deities, as you read in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that's exactly what they do. They put them, they were installed on the carts, and then all of the demigods, they began to chant, sing, dance, clap, and it was a very ecstatic situation. So much so that they were then prompted to begin to take the ropes which were on the chariots, and they began pulling the ropes so that the chariots would move forward. And as the chariots moved forward, what happened is that the deities were able to see all around them, left and right and forward. And whoever they would look upon would be blessed with liberation. Not instant or immediate, but the process of liberation would start. So that was the first Rathayatra festival that took place. But what is the Rathayatra festival? What does it symbolize? Well, we have to go back to the time when there was a solar eclipse which took place in India. And generally when there was a solar eclipse, what happens is that people, because there are evil vibrations which are sent down to protect themselves, they go to a holy place where there is a holy river or a holy lake. And they bathe in the holy river or lake, and there is chanting of the Lord's holy names, which is a protection from all of the bad or worldly vibrations. So it just happened to be that the residents of Dwarka, they went to Kurukshetra, where there are 5 lakes which have been established by who? Anybody remember? Lord Parasuram. This is in Kurukshetra. There are 5 different lakes, and people will bathe in those lakes in order to not only gain purification, but protection as well. So they came, the residents of Dwarka, and then the residents of Vrindavan, they came. So the gopis of Vrindavan were in one area, and then the residents of Dwarka were in another area, and they saw Krishna, and their hearts began to flow. And they just gazed at Krishna. They couldn't stop looking at Krishna. Krishna felt their desire to want to talk with him. So he walked over to them, and he said to them, I can see that you would like to talk something. They said, yes. Well, the atmosphere there was so completely different, so completely contrary to the atmosphere that the gopis knew Krishna in Vrindavan. It's a simple forest lad. Whereas here, what we had is rattling chariots, trumpeting elephants, neighing horses, whinnying horses, soldiers, loud speaking, brusque, not very sophisticated, not very cultured. So it was in a situation in which the gopis felt very much not at home. it was not the environment or the atmosphere that they were used to meeting with Krishna, because it was a forest environment. So they said, could we please leave this area now and go into the forest, which was nearby? And they went to the forest nearby and sat down. And they said to Krishna, are you ever coming back to Vrindavan? You said you would come back, but you've never come back. Why? He said, well, there's some more demons that I have to kill. So he said, as soon as I kill these demons, then yes, I will definitely come back. And we can again resume our loving pastimes as we once had. So the gopis were pacified and they felt very good about that, especially since they were in this natural nature environment with beautiful flowers, birds twittering, and green grass, and fruits on the trees, honey coming from the trees. They felt very comfortable in that situation. So the Rathayatra festival symbolizes this taking of Krishna, or drawing Krishna away from that noisy, crowded, chariot-rattling situation, and bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan, which was the pastoral or forest glade that they came to, in which they sat down. And that is actually what happens when we take the ropes and we pull the ropes of the chariot. So when we have a chariot on which will Jagannath rides, there is 5 ropes, all along the line. So we take the rope and we pull them, and in effect we are taking Krishna back from Dwarka to Vrindavan, so that they can engage in the most intimate, the most enjoyable, the most heart-stopping, if you will, pastimes. So that is one of the important aspects of the Rathayatra festival. Another important aspect is generally people go to the temple to see the Lord and worship the Lord and serve the Lord. But in this particular incarnation, the Lord goes to the public and he rides on the chariot and he sends out his blessings. He sends his compassion, he sends his kindness, he sends his sweetness, so that everyone and anyone who gets the glance of Lord Jagannath is being blessed in such a way that liberation is definitely guaranteed, and it will take place over a period of time. The liberation that is being referred to is not Sayujya liberation, which is merging with the infinite light. There are 4 other kinds of liberation, which is living in the same planet as the Lord, having the same form as the Lord, having the same opulence as the Lord, as well as having a friendly, close association with the Lord. And that is the liberation that is being talked about here. When Lord Brahma, and when he put the flag on the top of the temple, and he said that whoever prostrates, gives obeisances, would be liberated. He's talking about Vaishnava liberation, not impersonalistic liberation. So what we have here, what we see here, is that the Lord agrees to come down and go amongst the people. Even though he doesn't have hands or legs, he has no material hands or legs, he has transcendental senses. And with his transcendental senses, he accepts all the offerings that are made along the route that the chariots are wheeled along. So therefore, we are very, very blessed and very, very wonderful that we have festivals like this, because we can accelerate or expedite our spiritual advancement by seeing the Lord, by serving the Lord, such as pulling the ropes, or making the garlands, or chanting, or dancing, or clapping, or simply shouting Jai Jagannath. The Lord is receiving all of this and enjoying all of this, and in reciprocation, he is giving his mercy in the form of his love to all of us. So therefore, we should be very, very thankful, and we should give our thanks regularly, daily, to the Lord for providing this experience, this accessibility, which enables us to make spiritual advancement much more readily than we might otherwise do. In earlier ages, people have to wait 60, 70,000 years before they can achieve this liberation. Whereas in Kali Yuga, things are made a little easier because this is the period of quarrel, dissension, and it's very difficult to be even peaceful. But the Lord is making it more readily available to become peaceful by chanting the Lord's holy names, by worshiping His forms, by bowing down to Him, by having friendly association with Him, and by feeling that we are privileged to have all of this as His grace, as His kindness, as His sweetness. And therefore we should not take it cheaply, but rather we should try to share it with those who may be less fortunate, so that they too can have the benefit and the blessings of the Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath ki! Jai! Lord Jagannath ki! Jai! Baladev ki! Jai! Sumatra ki! Jai! All glory to the assembled devotees. Thank you very much.